Welcome, everyone. Kellie here. I'm so excited to interview Catherine Just today, and I wanted to just introduce this video very quickly and let you know that if you want to talk back to us, feel free to hop over to Instagram, follow Catherine at CJust, follow me at the Kellie Adkins, and we'll be happy to respond and talk back about this interview. We really go into a lot of vulnerable pieces about motherhood, entrepreneurship as a spiritual path, and really following a purpose-driven life. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed speaking to Catherine and hearing her wisdom. Be sure to follow me, kellieadkins.com/Kula, to get all episodes of past and forthcoming Kula conversations.
Okay, hi, welcome everyone. Kellie here. I am joined this afternoon by the lovely, intrepid Catherine Just. And hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm really excited to introduce Catherine and to let her talk to us all a little bit about her journey as an artist, as an entrepreneur, as I would say purpose-centered and passion-centered person, and also as a mother. And so we're gonna talk about a couple things. We were just chatting before we went live about few things. Having the same haircut that you had when you were 3 or 4. I gave myself names, y'all. I don't know why I do this. I'm trying to distract you with the red lipstick. But we also want to go in a little bit because I also want to introduce her as a person who is living this kind of purpose-fueled, conscious entrepreneur, excuse me, path. But she's also been very flexible and creative in her business model and the things that she does. So I'd love to allow her to tell you a little bit about her courses and the things that she creates. So Catherine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi.
Hi.
Everybody. Thanks for having me. I just love that we're continuing the conversation from when we first met, which was many years ago, 11 years.
Gosh,
I don't know.
Yeah, we're approaching that, if not that. Yeah.
Amazing. The evolution of both of us here.
Yes.
But just the quick and dirty elevator background. Elevator, it's not a pitch, but it's just the details is that when I was 18 years old, I was struggling with an alcohol addiction that actually led to a meth addiction. And so at 18, I was on my knees with that and went to treatment. I checked myself in, and I've been sober ever since. So I'm coming up, today's the 18th, and every time it's the 18th, I have a little nod to self because it was August 18th, 1987, when I got sober. So every time it's the 18th, I'm like, you did it another 30 days, like what has happened? And it's kind of like a moment of reflection for what maybe has transpired in the last 30, which I think is an important for me to mark moments that matter. And I think that's sort of the beginning of everything for me. And then I went to art school and studied photography, film, and video, like a conceptual photography, film, and video sort of genre. And I was horribly uncomfortable in my own skin. And I couldn't ask other people to be in front of my camera because I couldn't deal with other people. I couldn't do it. And I was just crawling out of my skin mostly. And so I started doing self-portraiture as a default because I didn't know what else to do. And I needed to do the assignments. So it started as like a way to take my feelings that I didn't know how to articulate and turn it into something visual. And I got very interested in how to metaphorically speak in visuals and use my body, but also objects as metaphors inside these spaces. So I was doing that. And then 10 years into my recovery, I had like a fork in the road where AA was the only thing back then. Now there's a lot of options, but back then it was only Alcoholics Anonymous or white knuckling it. And I was going to AA, and after 10 years, I had a moment of like, I can't deal with this. I can't I didn't want to drink anymore. I just couldn't deal with the structure and the dogma of the people. I just had it. Like I couldn't. I mean, there's more to that story. I could go into it, but it doesn't really matter. But what it led to was a second chapter where I found Miguel Ruiz and he found me, the teacher, you meet the teacher when you're ready.
Yeah.
And I apprenticed with Miguel, the author of the 4 Agreements, and apprenticed with him I still feel apprenticed to him. And I worked in his office and helped him run his trips. And it was like a real eye opener around the ways that I suffer and how I was causing most all of it.
Mhm.
And so that has then woven into every single thing I do, everything I live, breathe, and I mean, it's just delicious work for me to uncover patterns and disrupt them. And I think I'm rebellious in that way. And I'm really, I seek out, like, how do I live even more free than I am now? That is the goal for me, freedom inside here, mostly. And so I've combined those things and I teach these things. I'm an artist, a photographer, a spiritual healer, and I make my work, I sell my art, I do photo sessions that are either branding for females that are entrepreneurial, that need work. I photographed Kelly a long time ago, and also do something called capturing breath on film, which is a way for you to mark a moment that matters by photographing you while you're thinking about your dreams, your wishes, and your desires, and what you're intending about where you're heading and what you're releasing from your past, and just creating a marker, basically, or a sacred totem that reminds you of this intention, reminds you of this moment. So I've been traveling doing that. I go to Paris, I go all over, but it was mainly France for a while. And I have a little dude named Max. I am a divorced, single co-parenting mommy with a 14-year-old son named Max who has Down syndrome. And so a lot of my work also deals with grant writing to get money for projects that are based in bringing awareness to stereotypes and ableism and how to shift our thinking about differently abled people, but also all people, because as a recovering alcoholic addict, there's also stereotypes about me that aren't true. And there's stereotypes about everyone that aren't true. So I'm very much into bringing awareness around all of our values in general. Like, we're all valuable, we're all worthy of taking up space and expressing ourselves fully, myself included in that. So it's a work in progress around what I'm doing in the world and how I'm showing up in my business and what I want to offer in service to that mission, basically. That is the longer version.
I love the longer version. There were so many gems in there. Just one thing that you said that made I just wanted to call attention to it, because I think it's really impactful, is marking the moments that matter. Just even that, that practice that you have on the 18th of every month, another 30 days. I think that's, especially in the spiritual tradition, there's this, the practice of repetition, of saying a mantra, praying a mala, prayer beads, sun salutations, embodied movements, that there's really a power to that, taking a moment to acknowledge the sacred and the mundane.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've had to learn how to be comfortable in my own skin. And that's like part of it, is bringing myself back to myself and not leaving myself, because I can leave myself in all sorts of ways, not just through drinking. I don't actually have any urges to drink or use, but there's a lot of other ways that I can distract myself from my feelings. So I'm still learning how to bring it back and honor the present, which everything is available right here if I'm willing to stick with it,
Yes.
So,
And I think that's so powerful too, just bringing awareness to it's a human tendency to want to withdraw, to want to escape. It's not the addict or the person in recovery that only has that tendency, right?
Yeah.
And there are lots of ways that we check out and that we disengage from the radiant present or from our mission or whatever it is. There are lots of ways that we dissociate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very true. Yeah, I
yeah,
like how you said the radiant present. That's beautiful.
yeah. Yeah. So if you want to talk about this, I'd love to hear more about how becoming a mother has maybe changed or potentially shaped. I mean, obviously, those things inform one another. Your career, and and if you have any kind of things you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with other artist mamapreneurs out there.
Sure. I love that they're gathered here. I love that you created a space for us, that's beautiful.
Yes, lots of neurodivergent folks in here, lots of people wanting to live with purpose up front, to create it, like you said, disrupt some of those patterns that are not healthy for us, so
Right.
that we can truly be free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that we can still be rebellious and just use it toward goodness,
Right.
We don't have to harm anyone. Make sure everybody knows our opinion. Although I'm kind of loud about, good opinions around stereotypes, I think are important, but yeah. So yes, I think I had my child late in life and I already had 20 years recovery-ish, I think,
Mhm.
if I can do the math right. And so I was I didn't have a dream of having a child or of getting married. So this was a new chapter that wasn't like, I can't wait to have a child. I didn't actually think I could get pregnant. And I did get married and thought if the universe thinks it's time, I will be pregnant. And if not, I won't. And I had no attachment to it because I didn't have that dream of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got pregnant 8 months later. Like it was like, okay, that's what is meant to be. And I did not know that he was going to have Down syndrome until after he was born. 20 minutes after he was born is when I was told that he had Down syndrome. And so that's a whole situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and prior though to when I found out I was pregnant, then I actually decided to quit my career. I was a full-time photographer, mostly doing portraiture, weddings, that kind of thing, engagement shoots, that sort of thing. And I quit and wanted to be a stay-at-home mom for the first 3 years.
Hmm.
And then around the first year,
Mhm.
turned one and I started getting ants in my pants. Like I just wanted to create or do something
Yeah.
else. So I started to go online and take classes. And I realized that I could potentially do the same and teach classes online. And that was a big flip for me. I never knew really it existed before that. So I started 14 years ago, making it up as I go, trying to teach and taking all sorts of business classes for entrepreneurs like us and
Mm.
trying to figure out what is my message, all that stuff. And it's
Right.
this like evolving, changing, living, breathing thing. It's changed a lot. But it has always, like, the fundamentals have been either teaching the Toltec path and the 4 agreements and how to use them as an artist, as somebody in recovery, as an entrepreneur, as a woman. They just fit everywhere.
Yeah.
But also teaching how to use photography as a tool for transformation. And I've done lots of different classes that have evolved too. I feel like one of the things that I pride myself in, but is also something that I have to work on, is that I give myself permission to change my mind whenever I want to. And I did learn that from my mother, who changed her career 6 times in front of my eyes, because she felt like it. And so I do the same as far as if I'm teaching something and it's not resonating anymore, I don't teach it anymore.
Mm.
And that's a good thing, because then I'm always coming to class excited.
Mhm.
And it's also been a challenge because then I'm constantly new again, trying to reach people that would want the work instead of just staying with the thing
Sure.
and building it. So
Sure.
So, I like that about myself, and it's also caused me to do more work than maybe other people. And I've done then I started doing the branding work, and that was actually an accident. It was accidental, so to speak.
Right.
Because I asked somebody I admired to do a photo shoot with me, Danielle Laporte, and she said yes. And then while we were doing the shoot, she said, "Do you want to just take some branding shots from me?" I'm like, "I don't know what that is, but sure." And then
Mhm.
she used one of them in the back of the desire map, and that was the end. Like, everybody then knew who I was and wanted, not everybody, but the people that followed her wanted to hire me.
Sure. Well,
So that,
and photographing Carrie Ann Moss
yeah, it led
showcase.
to that, because Carrie Ann and Danielle are friends. So
Yeah.
Carrie Ann was noticing what was happening, and she texted me, and my favorite movie of all time is The Matrix. And so, and Miguel Ruiz took us to that movie and said,
Yeah.
"Pay attention, pay
Yes,
attention."
right.
And
We watched that in my yoga teacher training.
yeah, it's all true. It's all true. And we are all Neo.
Yeah.
And so Carrie Ann texted me and said, "Hi, this is Carrie Ann Moss." I'm like, is this is seriously a Matrix moment. So it's just evolved based on me not wanting to leave the house at first. I didn't want to leave the house, but I wanted to be creative. So I started selling my artwork on Etsy and trying to figure out how to teach classes, and they flopped until they did better.
Right.
And some of them do great and some of them still don't. I mean, I just ended a class today. It was the end of a 5-week class, and there were only 3 of them in there.
Yeah.
It was an incredible group of us.
Yeah.
And I've had, it's fluctuated between like hundreds of people and like nobody wanting it.
Yeah.
So
It's so interesting to even just to hear you kind of talk about that journey, because well, it mirrors my own in many ways, and I think probably a lot of those watching or listening to this now or later can relate to that, just wanting to do the thing but not knowing how to do the thing, so just trying to do the thing, figuring it all out. Right, going around in circles,
yes,
reinventing, doing the thing. um and so, but I loved something you said at the beginning, and you didn't say it exactly this way, but I think you said something like, it's always been these sort of core things. And I know in my own business and in my work with clients, that's something that we do try to find, is their core themes. What are the things you're always coming back to? What are the things that you are just, they're these pieces of your identity, you can't take them out. And so when you're super creative, artistic, a desire to share and express like you are. Um, for example, I think, being able to find that, like, I love, love, love your capturing breath on film concept. I mean, just the concept of memorializing this moment where you're breathing into and being this higher vision of yourself.
I could feel that when you said it. I just got emotional thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, I mean, it's such a powerful representation of your journey. I mean, can we just all acknowledge like how amazing it is that you've been sober since you were 18? I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't have anything figured out at 18. Right?
Yeah, but
Certainly not like these fundamental pieces of like how to show up in the world.
I didn't know how to show up in the world, but I knew not to do that one thing. I mean,
Right.
I
Yeah.
have to say that my bottom was fast. Like, I
Yeah.
went from drinking to meth in a matter of a couple of years. I started drinking when I was 13 and then was on meth at 16. And
Yeah.
so my bottom, I mean, if I tell the story of my bottom, I don't have to, there's no part of my brain that's trying to talk me into like maybe a drink would be a good idea. Like, it's not. And I hear other people doing that. I know
Yeah.
the function of that. I know that in
Right.
other ways, with food, with money, with men that I don't want to break up with, whatever.
Right.
I understand the seduction of doing the thing that we know could cause harm, but not in that arena, thank God. And I honestly don't think that anything else exists without my recovery. So
Yeah.
even if I'm not going to meetings, and even if I don't like those people,
Yeah.
like, if I've gone back to meetings, just to be clear, like, I'm back in
Sure.
12-step program again on a different level, and I'm looking at it's a different program inside. Like, it's not just Alcoholics Anonymous. There's like programs for everything.
Yeah.
So I'm now I'm doing deeper work inside the 12 steps that I'm ready to do. And I wasn't ready until I was ready. So being sober is one thing, but also I was causing wreckage in my life, because I did not want to grow up. I didn't want to learn how to look at money or anything that had to do anything with adulting was not really interesting to me.
Sure.
So it's taken me a while to get comfortable in my skin, get comfortable with the being adulting. And like, I still like cringe a little bit with, I like the feeling of being free and
Mm.
and not getting stuck in a way of being because that's how it's done.
Right.
It hurts me. But
Well,
thank you for that.
yeah, and I think it's thank you for being brave enough to acknowledge that there is a challenge, and there are a number of problems with the way that that sort of adulting concept is even framed. Like the things that fill our time as contemporary humans often are not meaningful or purposeful. They don't fill us up in the ways that give value. So it's right to rebel in a
Yeah.
sense, and also,
And also. I think it's great to have rebellion and to be of service to yourself too, and to learn how to get comfortable. Like, I was leaving myself like around numbers. I had a belief that I was stupid. So like I had to work on that or not work on that. Like, I didn't know I needed to work on that until I knew I needed to work on that. I just thought it was true. So I didn't think I could look at numbers. So I didn't, I acted that belief out. Storyline was very real for me until I realized that I was making the whole thing up. So, through awakening with the 4 agreements and the Toltec path, I got to see until I could really see. I mean, it takes what it takes to really see that I'm creating this whole story based on something someone did or said or didn't say, or an eye roll. And I planted that seed and then I watered it. So that's my responsibility, to unlearn a particular way of being that is taking me however long it takes me.
Right. And that, I mean, is it's a simple thing to say, oh, I've got this pattern. And once you identify the pattern or the belief, okay, there's this pattern here. Because humans are meaning makers and we love to recognize patterns, right? So yay, there's a pattern there.
Yeah, I made that.
Right. The more challenging thing is like identifying all of the many little micro steps that went into creating that pattern.
Yes.
And part of that is finding those core beliefs, limiting your potential and rooting them out. So that's a process in and of itself.
Yeah, you said something to that I wanted to acknowledge too, which is that piece of like trying to find the through line of like what it is you're here for, or like what's the purpose in your work. And that has been, I lead art retreats and I teach Toltec path stuff, and I want to make art about butterflies. And I also want to teach people subconscious reprogramming and do EFT tapping and all of that. It doesn't seem related and feels disjointed and has been a difficult way for me to understand myself. Like, I don't understand it in the business terms of how we're taught to like pick a thing. And I do think that finding that through line for me, I mean, it like just happened. And of course that could change and evolve, and it still is. I feel like the business thing is evolving just like I am. So
it has to. Yeah.
it has to. But I did have a great coach who saw that, like, I can't be just an artist or just a spiritual teacher, or just,
Sure.
that I am all the things. And to find the through line was that for me, and I said it in the beginning too, and it makes me really emotional to say it, but I believe that we all are valuable and worthy of being here. And I want everyone, I'm gonna cuss now, but my motto is I love myself no matter fucking what. And I mean, I'm sipping out of the mug that says
Yay.
Fucking what? Um, so when I do
Your
my
beautiful calligraphy, right?
yeah,
Yeah, good.
but I think I need a reminder too. But when I go into my creative practice, it is a communion with the present moment and with the universe or the
Mhm.
God of my understanding, and a connection and that's absent of my storyline. It's like I'm having a conversation, and when I'm looking through my camera, I see a version of God looking back at me.
Yeah.
It's miraculous. I'm getting really into the present moment, and we're all one thing,
Yeah.
supposedly. I can't see that, but I've been told. So it's just an interesting thing to be alive and be curious and get to invent words around the work we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the just the way that you talk about your photography and the I mean, there's obviously something so magical about just capturing a moment in time. Take away the technology and all of the fancy tools and everything, but just that process. But being able to bring that layer of spiritual understanding of saying, like, through this lens, I'm seeing, the veils that separate us from source disappear, in that sense, being able to see someone's, I'll use the term divinity, just sort of in the small d, not like one
Yeah.
particular. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I didn't mention this, but when I do those sessions, I do a long exposure instead of,
Mhm.
when I'm taking your picture for a website, it's a 60th of a second. It's like
Right.
stopping time. But with these, healing sessions, I'm allowing the film to capture you as you're breathing and as your heart is beating, which means you're moving. So
Mhm.
I'm capturing your life on film. It's not a in focus picture. It's really you with your feeling. I like look away because it's not about you performing or having your hair
Yeah.
done. It's really about you being with yourself. And
Mm.
most of the time I ask people to close their eyes because I think we do, if there's a camera, we want to perform or we start to do
Sure.
something.
Sure.
So that's been really important to me too, to give people an opportunity to breathe,
Mhm.
for
Yeah,
sure.
to have that reminder and have the opportunity to see themselves through your eyes in that way. I know that was one of the most powerful experiences from our work together. And, even just the end of that photo session, we were just playing around and taking a few different photos. And um, so I love that. So you do still offer branding work, yes, if someone wanted
Yeah,
to do
it came
that.
back. Like I
Mhm.
did shelve it for a minute and now it's
Sure.
back.
Okay.
I just did a shoot. Somebody flew in and we went to a sexy hotel and she put on a bathing suit. We played. We
Yeah.
and I consider my work play. I don't like to pose you. I just want to be with and see how things evolve in the moment. But yeah, I
Sure.
still do branding sessions now.
Yes. Well, we like recreated a dream that I had for a possible, creative tarot deck thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember.
So I know that you do tremendous creative work. So if anyone's interested in your branding work, I'll pop links below this. But also that you are still doing the capturing breath on film, correct?
I
Possibly.
am, and I like to either have people come here or I go to a sexy hotel somewhere near you, or
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, people in Paris a lot.
Love it. Paris is always a good idea.
There's an apartment that I rent there, and I just is like, it is a dream. It's a
Yes.
complete, so it's not just a photo session, it's really a healing session. It's really a coming back to yourself and
Yeah.
say yes to yourself kind of situation. But yeah, I do capturing breath on film sessions as well, and I'm really excited now that we're traveling again to be able to meet people where they live and
Yes.
there.
And then you also have your courses. I know you have a lot of people on Instagram follow you, and I remember you used to do like sort of a 4 or 5 day challenge on your Instagram page. I'm not sure if you're still doing anything like that, but people can find you there if they're interested in your
Yeah.
thoughts, right?
Yeah, I'm a little bit addicted to being on Instagram. It's a fact. And I do have a podcast and a YouTube channel that are coming back. So stay tuned
Okay,
for that. So
fabulous.
things are shifting, but yeah, I will be on Instagram the most if
Okay.
for me for sure.
Yes. Okay. Well, fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Catherine. We could probably talk for hours and hours, but
I know.
I know that you have a busy life. And so I will put all of your details below here. I would love to hear more from our community. If you liked what Catherine had to share, particularly just, I love how you were just real about your courses. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they flop, but just keep at it, keep trying to find your core themes. There's a lot of gems in this little talk. Thank you so
Thanks.
much,
Thank
Catherine.
you.
All
And it's
right,
always good.
Kula, we will see you around. Catherine will be in here answering if you have anything that you want to follow up with. Just go ahead and post in the comments here, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. If you enjoyed this interview, never miss another one. Head over to kellieadkins.com/Kula and we'll stay in touch that way. I'll hop right into your inbox with all previous Kula conversations and you'll be notified about upcoming interviews. If you'd like to be a guest on Kula Conversations, send me an email or DM me on Instagram at the Kellie Adkins. Be sure to subscribe here and again, head over to kellieadkins.com to hop on my email list and make sure that you receive all of the information about upcoming Kula conversations. Also, be sure to follow Catherine and find her at C-IAYT on Instagram. Thanks so much for sharing your time with us today. I hope to see you around the Kula. Thank you. Ciao.